Let's talk about multiple orgasms for men. That idea sounds awesome, and women can experience multiple orgasms. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could do it too? Yes, it is possible, and I do want to say that it's probably different from what you're thinking, and it's possible that you've been misled if you've been researching this topic. So if you're a guy, if you have a cock, you're not going to be able to have 5 ejaculations with your partner over and over and over and over and over again and be able to keep having sex, because the refractory period is real. After you have an ejaculation, usually you lose your erection and your arousal goes down and you want to eat a sandwich. You're not interested in sex anymore. And that's different from how when women have multiple orgasms, generally speaking, they can have an orgasm and an orgasm and an orgasm and an orgasm again and keep having sex. And they don't go through that refractory period, generally speaking. So if we're not able to have multiple ejaculatory orgasms, then the obvious logical next step is to be able to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. And you can have multiple of those in a row. So, have you heard of this book? The Multi-Orgasmic Man by Mantak Chia. This book is sort of the gateway book, the Bible, if you will, for a lot of men who are starting off on this path of multiple orgasms and non-ejaculatory orgasms. And there's a lot of really good stuff in here. And on the back, it says, learn to separate orgasm and ejaculation. And I find those words misleading. I find them misleading in terms of my own personal practice and from all the teachers that I've studied with, the Tantra teachers and the Taoist sexuality teachers, and from the hundreds of men that I've talked to. The idea of being able to separate the typical ejaculatory orgasm from ejaculation is awesome, and I have yet to meet a single man who can do that. Including all the master teachers that I've studied with. And what I think they're really talking about is, well, let's see, so if you look at this chart, I'll pull up a chart from this book on my computer screen. This is the orgasmic potential chart from the Multi-Orgasmic Man book. And if you start off right here, this is the point at 0 arousal. And most men get an erection, they get really aroused and turn on super fast and come up here to the point of no return and ejaculate and come down into the refractory period, and the pleasure is gone. And a lot of men, including myself, after that want to eat a sandwich or something. We're not as interested in sex anymore. So this point right up here, this is the point where they're talking about the breaking off point. So if you see right here, the point of no return is at the peak, and what you're doing is you're actually, to get to the non-ejaculatory orgasms, which are up here, you're bypassing, you're going underneath this point of no return and coming up. And so he has it listed here, the contractile phase, involuntary PC and prostate contractions, and that happens before the point of no return. I'll agree that some of those happen, but none of the teachers that I've talked to, none of the men that I've talked to have had the full-on, like, involuntary, crazy release type orgasm without ejaculation. It just doesn't seem to be a thing. Now, I will say that a lot of guys have thought that they're having this experience, but what's actually happening is they're having a retrograde ejaculation. So that means they're actually stopping their ejaculation from going out of their penis, and it's being diverted up into their bladder. And if you look here in this book, there's a chart that talks about the finger lock and pressing on your perineum to stop an ejaculation. But what's really happening here is when you're having that experience, when you get to that point of no return and you start to have that orgasm, if you use your finger lock, the semen and your ejaculate is going to come up this tube, and your fingers are going to block it from coming out of here and divert it up into your bladder. So it's sort of like cheating. You're still having an ejaculatory orgasm, you're just not ejaculating out the front of your cock. It's going into your bladder. And if you're not sure if this is happening to you, there are 2 ways to be able to tell. One way is that you will still lose your erection, or a decent amount of your erection, after something like this. And the second way is that if you pee and you want to try an experiment, pee in a glass cup right after you've had that experience, and if you see material in your urine that looks like semen or looks like an ejaculation, then you've had a retrograde ejaculation. So it's not really having an orgasm without ejaculation. So what is an orgasm without ejaculation? It's a different thing, and I think this book and other resources should say, instead of learn how to separate your orgasm from ejaculation, I think they should say, learn a new way to orgasm that's going to feel 20 times better than your typical ejaculatory orgasm, and you can have it over and over and over again. It's a new way to experience pleasure, different from what you're used to in the past. And the ejaculatory orgasm isn't bad, they're just different options of things you can experience. So I recently put out a survey to my Instagram audience and got hundreds of responses, and a bunch of men responded to say that they have had orgasms without ejaculation. So I'm going to read a couple of those so you have an idea of what they're talking about. This one guy says, shuddering waves of pure bliss, tactile and palatable, like I could ride that wave forever. And another guy said, it was a full body experience, like my whole body was tingling, especially around my lips and hands. Lasted 5 whole minutes and I felt very energized. Another guy says, it feels like I was floating with this never-ending sense of ecstasy. Another guy says, electrical tingling sensations starting in the core and erupting down into the toes and to the top of my head, leaving the head feeling like a pressure has been released and then relaxed all over the body. So you're starting to get the idea, right? This is some good stuff. And I want to say from my own personal experience that I have experienced non-ejaculatory orgasms that last for many minutes, sometimes 20. One time I had one that lasted for over an hour, and I'm shitting you not, no drugs involved, totally sober. I felt like every movement in my body felt better than an ejaculatory orgasm. And if you go to my website, I wrote an article about it. It's called My First Tantric Orgasm. It was a crazy experience. And after hours of lovemaking, I actually decided to ejaculate because I thought, wow, if this has been so good, just imagine what an ejaculation would feel like at the end of this. And it was really disappointing. It felt much less pleasurable than the waves of orgasmic experience that I was riding in with my partner. My ejaculation was actually less pleasurable than that. So I want to say one more point about this finger lock technique that I just mentioned. It's not recommended. I recommend against doing it. And I think Montauk Chia and his students are actually now recommending that people don't use that technique. And why is that? That's because if you look at this diagram again, let's see, where is it? When you press up on your perineum, you're ramming your fingers into a really sensitive area of your body, and you can cause stagnation, like energetic stagnation, they call it. Some other people I've read on the internet have said you can create back pressure and end up injuring this part of your body. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I've just read it. What I'm more concerned about is this feeling of stagnation that happens. And I've experienced that too when I've explored these types of non-ejaculatory orgasms where I'm actually ejaculating, it's just not coming out my cock. I don't feel as much of a loss of energy, but at the same time, I've often felt sort of like pent up. Like if I'm going to ejaculate, I'd rather just have that full experience of letting go versus like ramming my fingers up there and stopping that flow. All that is to say that you absolutely can experience multiple orgasms without ejaculation as a guy. And if you finish sex after doing that without ejaculating and you integrate that energy into your body, that is the basis of sexual energy transmutation. That's how you create more energy and put it into different parts of your life that you want to put it into. It could be your business, it could be your art, it could be music, it could be whatever you want to put it into. Obviously, the first step in being able to have an orgasm without ejaculating is being able to last as long as you want in bed. So if you want to be able to do that, I put together a totally free guide. It's on my website. I'll link to it beneath this video. Definitely check it out and reach out if you have any questions. Leave a comment below this video if you have anything to add, if you agree, if you disagree. I'd love to hear from you. That's it for today. See you next time. Hope you have an awesome day wherever you are in the world. Cheers.